If you don't know how my channel works, I tend to do a lot of concepts on this channel, more specifically movesets on how certain characters can play in certain games. But in truth, I've always wanted to try other types of concepts, not just for video games, but even for films as well. This is basically me throwing my hat in the ring, as you guys voted for what video I should make in 2025, so I decided to do my first ever movie concept. And what better movie to choose than a Donkey Kong Country movie? I'm actually a pretty big fan of the Donkey Kong franchise. I'm really glad that we got a lot of Donkey Kong content recently. And finally, at long last, a brand new 3D Donkey Kong game. So it makes sense this will be my big old choice on what would my Donkey Kong Country movie concept be about. So let's find out here on Star Jettison. Let's start things off by letting you know about this. I would talk more about the plot of the movie, not really how I would handle animation, budgeting, and even casting, as those situations can possibly be out of my control, even though this is a possible concept. But if you generally want my honest opinion on how the characters I think would be casted, DK, Diddy, and Cranky would keep the original voices from the Mario Brothers movie. I'm thinking either Dixie Kong or Tiny Kong would probably be voiced by Zendaya. Funky Kong or Chunky Kong could have the guy from the Aquaman and the Minecraft movie. Lanky Kong would be voiced by Steve Buscemi, and possibly my only recommendation for the film, Mark Hamill as King K. Rool. Just imagine animated Batman Joker with that face. You gotta admit, that would sound pretty cool. But that's just generally all I have to say about that. But I guess now it's time for me to talk about the actual story of the movie, which I'll be using actual scenes from the video games, as well as a few doodles I made myself. And if you happen to like the movie concept or think you can do a better idea for a movie plot or casting, leave it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your personal opinions, honestly. So sit back, relax, and hear what a possible concept for a Donkey Kong Country movie might be about. The movie begins with Cranky Kong telling the story of how the Kongs made their home. Though they had to face many dangerous enemies throughout the centuries, one Kong found the strength and power to take on any foe that would dare hurt his kingdom. The power of the Golden Banana. With the power of the Golden Banana, the Kongs were given superhuman abilities. The one who could wield the power of the Golden Banana would be known as the King of the Kong Kingdom. This was the legacy of the Kong Empire, and soon it will be time for the next in line to take the throne. As we see, Cranky is actually working on a speech to motivate the next ruler of the Kong Kingdom, Donkey Kong. He goes straight to DK's bungalow, only to find out that he isn't home. Cranky gets mad, and he starts yelling his name so loudly, his voice echoes out of the kingdom through a warp pipe all the way to Brooklyn, which happens to be where Donkey Kong is, and is talking with some of the locals along with Mayor Pauline. He hears Dad's voice echoing all the way from home, and he decides to rush all the way back. You can also see a small cameo of Mario and Luigi running into them in the background. After a quick jaunt through Brooklyn and into a warp pipe, you get to see a lovely look of the Kong Kingdom, similar to what we saw in the Mario Brothers movie, only this time we actually use the actual music that was originally planned for the film. DK makes it to the throne room, where he was supposed to meet his dad. Cranky's upset that he isn't taking his responsibilities very seriously, but Cranky is trying to give him that motivational speech that he was planning at the beginning of the film, only to turn around seeing Donkey Kong playing on a handheld. DK is easily distracted about what's been going on with Brooklyn ever since what happened in the Mario Brothers movie, even jokingly saying that there's a part of Brooklyn that they're going to name after him called New Donk City. But Cranky is disappointed in his son, as he really just wants to retire at long last. But before he could say anything else, DK leaves to go meet up with some pals of his. Realizing that his son is not yet ready to take over the throne, he looks at the old ancient paintings and realizes he might have an idea. While Cranky was planning something, DK heads off to meet his friends at a mechanic shop, which is basically a giant barrel airplane, and meets with one of his good buds, Funky Kong. They do the regular bro stuff that you would see in movies, and we're also introduced to the other members of Funky's garage, which include Lanky Kong, Tiny Kong, Chunky Kong, and finally, Diddy Kong. Diddy Kong in the film is actually a bit of a gadget maker, and is surprisingly smart, and you can see him working on some brand new doodads, including his iconic peanut pop gun, as well as a secret unfinished project. Unfortunately, Diddy seems to be having a hard time trying to get both devices to work. DK mentions that a good whack can fix almost anything, Diddy is a big fan of DK, even when he generally admits that he's not the smartest Kong out there. Speaking of ideas, Funky actually shows off a new invention that the crew's been making, using the zero-gravity tools that were in the go-karts from the Mario movie. The barrel cannon. With the barrel cannon, they plan to use it for better transportation and travel distances, instead of just going around in go-karts, even though it is pretty fun. But as DK's about to enter in one of the barrel cannons, it turns out there are a few kinks to some of the barrels, such as continuously spinning in a circle, or prematurely getting launched out of cannons, right as you enter the barrel. Though DK manages to survive the impact, he says not to worry about it as he hopes to get these new barrel cannons ready for when he becomes king. Everyone looks shocked to hear the announcement, but only one person is actually laughing at the idea of him being king. And that happens to be Dixie Kong, Tiny's sister and Diddy's girlfriend. She laughs at the idea of Donkey Kong actually trying to rule this whole kingdom on his own, and also jabs at Diddy for being such a fanboy of him, even telling Donkey Kong up front that he needs to step up if he thinks he's gonna take over for Cranky someday. Though DK was mad, he also was a little disappointed in himself, as he does walk away realizing that maybe he's not as irresponsible as he thinks he is, seeing the damage from the barrel cannons. But before anything else can happen, apparently Cranky makes an announcement asking every Kong in the kingdom to meet up in the arena. As we enter the arena, Cranky gives a special announcement that he'll be retiring and giving Donkey Kong the throne. Everyone is shocked. Well, except the DK crew. However, in order for DK to become the true ruler of the island, Cranky announces that he must take on the trial of the ancestors. All the Kongs didn't know what Cranky was even talking about. Cranky explains that long ago, their ancestors used to hold a trial to prove whether a Kong was worthy of the throne. In order for Donkey Kong to prove his worth, he would have to navigate through the far-off reaches of the countryside and return home with a golden banana from the Lost Banana Temple. Everyone's in shock of hearing about a golden banana, and one Kong actually even does the "oh banana" sound in DK64. As no one's seen a golden banana for a very long time. Some even thought it was a myth. But DK was ready for the challenge to prove that he was ready to take over. And to make sure everything went smoothly, Cranky would allow two companions with him to go on his journey. The first would be a choice from Cranky, and he happens to choose his good old pal and trusty parrot, Squawks. The second companion was Donkey Kong's choice, and of all the Kongs he chose Diddy Kong, mostly because he believes that the gadgets that he makes will actually help them on their dangerous journey. After preparing a couple of farewells, Diddy, DK, and Squawks set out on their quest to claim the golden banana. But as they leave the comfort of their home, a bunch of ships are about to set to shore, full of angry critters, one of which happens to be looking at DK and Diddy through a telescope. He goes to the back of the ship and tells the captain what he saw, and a menacing shadow tells him to bring out a small team to go after them, and to bring something they call the Beast to take them down, while they begin their invasion of the Kong Kingdom. Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong begin their adventure, and Diddy is still trying his best to fine-tune his peanut pop gun. He also says that he brought a bunch of other items for the trip, such as spare bananas, extra peanuts, and some balloons. DK looked confused about the balloons, but Diddy said, "You never know what you might need on your journey." DK believes he can handle anything, as he literally throws a coconut into the woods, not realizing he accidentally hit a zinger's nest. And before he realizes it, they're being chased by a massive swarm of the angry bees, ready to sting the pants off of DK and Diddy. Well, if they had any. Diddy tries throwing everything he can at the zingers, only to piss them off even more to the point where they're bright red. Until they're cornered, about to ready to face their doom. Until a loud shaking noise scares the zingers away. Both Kongs were surprised about what happened, and were really grateful they made it out alive. But what made that noise? It turns out it was actually a bunch of the critters who were following them, carrying a massive box with a symbol of a rhino on it. And before they open the box, they tell whatever's inside to hunt down two specific monkeys. Before the critters could finish their work, the box exploded, as whatever the beast was ran horn first, straight for Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong. Making a bit of progress on their journey, they realized they seemed to be getting closer to their goal, only to then realize a massive mountain was in their way, and there didn't seem to be an easy way to get around it. Heck, it was even hard to try climbing the dang thing. But until they can think of another plan, that loud noise from before was heard again, except it sounded far closer. It was none other than a mighty rhinoceros, covered in chains, and boy did he look mad, as right when it saw DK, it rushed right for him. Donkey Kong barely dodged in time, and the rhino kept on charging at whoever and whatever it wanted, ramming into trees, the wall, and almost running into Diddy before DK moved in to stop the wild beast. Both Kongs realized that the creature was in pain, especially from the chains around its neck and feet. So Donkey Kong decides to break the chains off him and freeing the creature in hopes to calm him down. And it worked. It realizes that Donkey Kong wasn't a threat, but instead he was a friend. DK actually pets the rhino and was actually really surprised at how much damage it did, ramming into literally everything. And so DK decided to name him Rambi. Though this looked like the start of another beautiful friendship, Rambi decided to actually go deeper into the jungle, as he was finally free. DK was sad to see his new friend go, but then he realized his new friend opened a path inside the mountain, another step towards the golden banana. Meanwhile, back at the Kong Kingdom, things were okay per the norm, with some of the members of the DK crew actually missing Donkey Kong and Diddy, but then everything changed when the Kremlings attacked, with many different varieties of critters going after different Kongs, taking down their homes, busting their go-karts, and eating their bananas. Things go from bad to worse when they manage to bust a giant hole through the temple where Cranky is hiding in the throne room, and it's revealed we finally see the chaotic critter who's crushing the Kong Kingdom. He goes by Captain K. Rool, and he says that he's finally returned to his ancestral home, though Cranky states that this home belongs to the Kongs. Cruel says that's true, but since they were trying to invade them to begin with, they had the right to the land as well. And long ago, their ancestors actually fought one another. In fact, this K. Rool right here is known as K. Rool the Fourth. And at long last, he finally claims back the home that was rightfully his, and the throne that belonged to him as well. But before K. Rool celebrates his victory, one of the critters returns from the jungle, telling his captain / new majesty that the two Kongs that they were after escaped deep into the mountains. K. Rool gives the critter a menacing stare with both clean eyes. The critter's afraid, but K. Rool realizes that Kong is after something, and he realizes it's the Golden Banana Temple, a temple that's so hidden that not even K. Rool's ancestors could find it. And the only clue they have to the location of the temple is hidden within the ancient scriptures on the wall. So K. Rool asks for his smartest member of his army, a pig. This pig, aka Professor Chops, is actually a scholar from another part of the world who wanted to study the ancient kingdom of the Kongs and their long war with the critters. By looking at the paintings inside the throne room, he deduced where the temple was and its exact pinpoint location. K. Rool was happy to hear where it was and decided to head off towards the Temple of the Golden Banana. But little they know, a certain yellow-haired ponytailed Kong happened to be eavesdropping on their plan and follows them in order to meet up with DK and Diddy. Back in the caves, Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong scour the darkness that was the mountain pass, but it was really hard to find anything or even know where you were going, until Squawks happens to find an old lantern and manages to light it up, making navigation easier, only to be surprised to find an old abandoned mining facility. However, there was actually no other way to get through the mountain, unfortunately. But DK had the brightest idea that in order to get there quicker, they should take one of the minecarts. Diddy believed that would be a very dangerous idea, and believes they should probably go back and find another route. DK says it's a dangerous idea, yes, but he also says sometimes it's worth taking a few risks in life, because you might never know where it might lead you. It does show that DK is a risk taker, but it does also show that DK understands that sometimes life throws unexpected punches in your way, and sometimes you gotta take those punches. Diddy still says it's dangerous and they should look around. DK unfortunately does agree, until they hear a snarling sound, and all around them they could only see menacing red eyes from what appear to be Kremlings. These Kremlings might have been in these mountains since the ancestral times, and boy do they look hungry and angry. So without any other options, DK and Diddy get on the minecart and try their best to get out of harm's way. The chase plays out similarly to the minecart levels found in the Donkey Kong Country games, with a lot of the critters also finding other minecarts and catching up behind them. You can generally feel the aura of danger as DK manages to make the minecart jump from rail to rail. Diddy tries his best to get out his peanut pop gun, but yet again, it's having a hard time trying to work. And in pure frustration, Diddy decides to smack the dang thing on the minecart, causing a peanut to actually shoot out of the pop gun. I guess DK was right sometimes. You sometimes gotta give things a good whack. With DK piloting the minecart and Diddy shooting the Kremlings away with their peanuts, they manage to escape the cave and the Kremlings and get out of the mines. Until they realize that they have no more rails for them to jump off of, and are about to plummet to their doom. Diddy tells DK to jump and to hold on, and after Diddy whacks his backpack, out comes a little rocket barrel that's firing its engines as much as possible. Unfortunately, it didn't have a lot of gas in the tank, but it was more than enough to help them hover and break their fall. DK and Diddy were alive, and they were both excited about how well they worked together, and amazed that they could do something so awesome as a team. And to add even more surprise to their victory, right in front of them was the Gold Banana Temple. They had found it. Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, and Squawks, who ran away from the whole fight situation, entered the temple and laid their eyes on the motherlode of golden bananas that grew inside. Diddy explains that the legends state that the golden banana would actually give those who eat it extraordinary power based off their own personal traits. And with a golden banana in hand, Donkey Kong proves that he might be able to actually rule the island. But a certain Kremling unfortunately crashes the party. K. Rool, Professor Chops, and an army of Kremlings have entered inside the temple. And before DK was about to give him the old 1-2 punch, K. Rool mentions that they kidnapped his father as well as the entire Kong Kingdom while he was away, and is holding them hostage unless he gives them the golden banana. But DK wasn't having any of that and was about ready to take down the Kremling. But DK gets a nice sucker punch to the face, causing DK to drop one of the golden bananas he picked up. And with pure excitement, K. Rool finally eats the very fruit that his ancestors have been hunting for years. I should also let you know this. King K. Rool's chest is actually pretty dim and not as shiny looking as you normally would see it. That's because once when he consumed the golden banana, his chest finally turned a bright, pure, beautiful gold, giving him his iconic super armor. Donkey Kong's still mad and he uses every ounce of his strength to punch K. Rool right in the chest, but it did nothing, and all K. Rool could do was laugh, as DK was punching K. Rool's chest again and again, only for him to tire out. But Diddy noticed that K. Rool's armor wasn't invincible. DK left a tiny crack on the belly. K. Rool took down Donkey Kong, telling him how arrogant he believes that he could take down a captain of his level. No, a king at his level. And from that point on, he would no longer become Captain K. Rool. He would find a tiny golden crown, as well as use one of the curtains inside the temple as a cape, and announce himself as King K. Rool. While constantly gloating, Dixie Kong appears for a surprise attack, trying to hit K. Rool in the face, until she gets a perfectly clean hit right in his eye, making the iconic bloodshot eye. But oh boy was he pissed at that little monkey, as he throws her back to the Kongs and tells the critter army to take the remaining gold bananas and destroy the temple with the Kongs in it. Professor Chops is shocked about this revelation. As a pig of archaeology, he thought it was not right to destroy such an ancient landmark. This is basically the part where Chops realizes K. Rool is evil. Basically, think that one scene from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Though Chops doesn't stop him, mostly because K. Rool threatened he'd turn him into bacon. And thus the cruel Critter King leaves in a literal explosive exit, while Diddy and Dixie are trying to carry Donkey Kong out of the temple before it caves in on them. But the temple falls off a cliff, with the Kongs falling in tow. Donkey Kong wakes up after being clobbered by K. Rool, and he happens to find Dixie and Diddy out like a light, wondering how they even survived the fall. He noticed a bunch of broken red balloons all over them. Turns out Diddy and Dixie blew a few balloons in order to help break the fall, but sadly, it couldn't fix Donkey Kong's broken spirit. He couldn't beat K. Rool. He couldn't save the Banana Temple, and he could no longer get a golden banana. He believed he was a failure. Diddy wakes up along with Dixie, seeing DK completely defeated. Diddy monkeys up and gives him the pep talk of a lifetime for once. He told him that if it wasn't for his kindness towards Rambi, they wouldn't have found cave inside the mountains. If it wasn't for his quick strategy in the minecarts, they wouldn't have survived. And if it wasn't for his determined spirit and his enjoyment for looking for danger, they wouldn't have taken the risks that would have made them found the temple to begin with. To Diddy, DK isn't just a king or a ruler or a cool guy. He was his hero. A hero that inspired him to finally do something that he'd always wanted to do. Be a hero himself. DK was moved by his speech and gave Diddy a hug, and he was proud to call Diddy his best friend. Dixie kinda ruins the moment by saying that's nice and all, but how are they supposed to make it back home before Rool fully takes over the kingdom? And to the surprise of everyone, an old friend appears. Rambi. DK yet again had another risky idea, and it was up to the four of them to save their home and defeat King Rool. So they ride on Rambi and rush all the way back to the kingdom to confront King Rool once and for all. As they make it home, they see all their companions being thrown into barrels one after another, and a lot of the golden bananas are being sent to the top of the temple. DK tells Diddy to go back to Funky's shop to get all the tools they need for the next part of their plan, and he tells Dixie to steal a few golden bananas from the Critters' Hall, while he rescues Funky and the others. DK starts a riot in the middle of town, causing the Kremlings to go after him, only for them to be beaten up by both him and Rambi, allowing them to free Funky, Chunky, Lanky, and Tiny. Dixie manages to steal 4 golden bananas, but when trying to sneakily grab one, she accidentally eats one and is about to be caught by one of the critters. Before that happens, the golden banana gave her the power to fly away with her hair. So with her newfound strength, she flies towards DK and crew. DK tells Dixie to give the remaining golden bananas to Tiny, Lanky, and Chunky in order to help them take down the remaining critter army on the kingdom. Lanky and Tiny immediately eat their bananas, causing Lanky to stretch his arms out just for you, and for Tiny to shrink in size to suit her mood, and give her very insane speed. Both were handling the critters well, but they noticed that Chunky was a little too scared to eat his. But after a while, he gains the courage to eat the whole thing and become ginormous, scaring the critters away. While that's happening, Diddy makes it back in time with tons of the barrel cannons from the beginning of the film, as that was the best way to get back inside the temple. In short, DK's plan was to take a few golden bananas, give to a couple of his friends, so that they can take care of the critter crew outside, while they use the barrel cans to launch DK into the temple in order to take down Rool. And luckily, he won't be doing it alone, as Diddy reveals his secret weapon, a new and improved fully functional peanut pop gun and a steel barrel jetpack, which he uses to help DK maneuver through the barrels while making sure some of the airborne critters don't get in their way of their plans. And after some critter chaos and barrel blasting, Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong launched themselves into the throne room. While DK was getting his plan in motion, King Rool had a horrific idea as well. With all these golden bananas, he explains his evil plan to the now caged Cranky. He wants to squeeze the pure golden banana extract in order to make banana juice, and once when it's full, plans to consume it, turning his entire reptilian body into a gold-plated, indestructible armor, truly showing how extravagant of a king he is. Cranky was not happy with this, and neither was Professor Chops, who gets ever working for that crooked crocodile. And before the extraction was complete, DK and Diddy bust into the temple. Rool is surprised to see Donkey Kong alive, but it didn't matter to him, considering he couldn't even break his golden armor previously. But Donkey Kong states that he wasn't trying his hardest. He realizes what true strength really is, and what it means to be a true ruler, unlike King Rool. Both Rool and Donkey Kong clash, with King Rool trying to blast him to bits using his blunderbuss, only for Donkey Kong to keep dodging his mighty cannonballs of cruelty. While they're clashing, Diddy sneakily tries to get Cranky out of prison, though Chops notices what he's doing and realizes that helping Rool is wrong, so instead decides to help them instead. While the battle continues, King Rool fires one more cannonball from his gun, and in slow motion, Donkey Kong grabs it with both hands and throws it right back into his stomach, causing a small crack into his golden armored gut. Giving Donkey Kong the opportunity he was looking for, Donkey Kong gets close to him and strikes with a barrage of punches right in his belly, causing more of the armor to start to decay. But before he could deal the final blow, King Rool slashes him again, pushing him away. King K. Rool was shocked and even terrified of what could happen next, until he realizes the banana juice is filled to the brim, and he goes after the juice. Cranky warns DK not to let K. Rool drink that vial, or he'll have no chance of beating him. This leads to a constant back and forth between Donkey Kong, King K. Rool, and the remaining Kongs for the banana juice, until it flies into the hands of Professor Chops. King K. Rool forces him to give the vial back, but instead, Chops throws it in the air, and it fumbles out of Diddy Kong's hand, but luckily lands right into the mouth of Donkey Kong, causing him to drink the juice whole. King K. Rool screams a blood-curdling no, as he just lost his ultimate power. Nothing happens at first, until Donkey Kong shines pure gold, and everyone is in pure shock as the gold shines so bright you could see it from outside the very temple they're in. King K. Rool is so mad, he decides to punch Donkey Kong right in the face, only to not even cause a dent. DK punches back so hard, the gold plating on K. Rool's stomach shatters, and then DK hits him with a barrage of golden fists, so fast you can barely see it, until he does one last wind-up and punches him right in the jaw, knocking King K. Rool out. Possibly. King K. Rool was defeated, and Donkey Kong was pounding his chest in victory, along with Cranky, Diddy, and the now reformed Professor Chops. As they finish celebrating, Donkey Kong returns to normal, losing his golden body, though they weren't sure why. Well, except for Professor Chops, as he explains that since it was pure golden banana extract, it probably didn't have any long-lasting nutrients for the body to absorb, meaning the banana juice was only temporary. Turns out while Chops was talking, King K. Rool was faking being knocked out unconscious and was about to go in for the kill, until Funky and the rest of the crew barge in, accidentally knocking him out again. And with Chunky's newfound courage, throws King K. Rool so high in the air, he comes crashing down like a meteor. And for real this time, King K. Rool has been defeated. The remaining critters were either captured or ran away back to their ships in fear. All the Kongs in the kingdom celebrated as their homeland was rightfully reclaimed. And during the celebration, Donkey Kong was given the title of King. But before DK could accept the honors, he wanted to thank the brave friends that he made on his journey, as well as the other Kongs that helped in their battle to save their home, as he realizes Kong is nothing without his people, and promises that he'll keep his home safe, along with his trusted DK crew. And that's how the movie ends, with of course the iconic DK rap. Or does it? Hey, this is AngelStar letting you know this was a last minute addition, but I want to let you know I was originally planning on doing a post-credit scene with King K. Rool in prison, and the Kong's asking why he invaded now of all times. Turns out he got a message from someone saying that the Kongs were in a weakened state. Turns out it was actually a ploy for Bowser's airships to invade the Mushroom Kingdom on a mission to rescue Bowser, led by his son, Bowser Jr., leading to a possible Mario 2. But I cut it because I later discovered that they already announced when the second Mario movie is going to come out, which will be in 2026. But I just want to let you know that was a really interesting idea I had, but I didn't want to just scrap that whole scene altogether. But yeah, that's my entire Donkey Kong Country movie. I'll admit, it's not perfect, and I generally know there are some things I kind of wish I could have fleshed out more, but with all the stuff I really had to edit this video, I was really exhausted from it all. But I hope you enjoyed this potential Donkey Kong movie idea, and who knows, maybe it'll happen someday. And if you want to see some other movie concepts in the future, like a proper Wreck-It Ralph 2 or a Star Fox movie adaptation, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. But until then, this is AngelStar, signing out from Star Jettison.